yeah, that's it. So that's it from me. So everybody, can we go into the chat room? Can I get to hear from everybody? Um, can I get to hear from everybody? Can we all just do quick introduction? Who you are, what your line of work is, and if you've got any expectations for this particular session. If you've got any expectations for this particular session. So everybody, please let us do that very quickly. Everybody. Okay, everybody. So if you don't mind, who you are, what do you do, and if you've got any specific expectations for this particular session as at today. Thank you very much, Simon. It's great to have you here. Wow. Okay, Simon, you'll probably end up doing a lot of teaching on this call as a person. So I'll keep calling on you since you're head of GRC. So yes, Mr. Henry of our famous Mr. Henry of Mr. Henry of Blue Penguin. Thank you very much. It's great to have you here. You're a global expert, so we'll end up listening. We'll end up listening to you a lot as it is. So I'm definitely looking forward to some to learning from everybody that is here. I'm looking forward to learning from everybody that is on this call. So yeah. Okay, who else is here? Emmanuel, thank you very much. It's great to have you here. Okay. It's great to have you here. Who else is here? Who else is here? Mr. Akiemi. Great. It's good to have you here. Mr. Ini, it's good to have you here. Who else? Can I get to hear from others before I go ahead with the session in itself? There is a recording, so maybe in Yolua, you can look for it for me, either Ini or Adeshawa. There is a recording that I did. I've held this session in the past. It should be on YouTube somewhere. So let me see. Maybe I might even be able to lay my hands on it. So I'll try and do like a recap of that particular session. So I know I have done something like this on YouTube in the past. So maybe I will maybe I might find it here. Aha, luckily for me, I have found it. So I'm going to share the link. So because I might not be able to go through everything that I did in that particular session. So I'll come into the chat room. So everybody, I have put the link. So I've done something on compliance in the past. I've done something on compliance in the past. So everybody, you can have a look. You can have a look at the link that I've shared in the chat room. Mr. Temidayo Olugbeson, thank you very much. It's great to have you here. Yes, so you're all going to do a foundation exam here after this. So for everybody that is attending, we're going to give you yes, a foundation exam to do after now. So one foundation exam and the other one, I will ask the team what exactly the exams are. But yes, if you attend and you complete this session, you're definitely going to get an opportunity to pass the compliance exam. I think there are two different exams. I know that there is one for the 37301. I also know that there is one that is very much focused on the anti-money laundering. So I know that there are two different exams, so we will see. But yes, everybody at least will get to do one exam after completing this particular session as it is. So once again, Thank you very much for being here. So there's an ISO standard for compliance. So ordinarily, every compliance department in every organization should adopt that particular standard. So everybody, you can look the standard up, right? Ordinarily, every compliance department, right, should adopt that particular standard, right? Ordinarily, every compliance department should adopt that particular standard. But in Africa, we don't do things because we want to do them. We do them because the regulator has said we should do them. So ordinarily, every compliance department, the same way information security will be looking to say, the same way information security will be looking to say that, oh, we're going to do 27001. And other departments in an organization are also going to be looking to do all sorts. Is exactly the same way compliance department should be looking to do this. Really, every compliance department should be looking to do this. But the challenge, and I put the link, you can check it out. All right, so I put two links in the chat room, everyone. I put the link for the compliance webinar that I've done specifically around 37301 in the past. And I've also put the link to the standard in itself. So ordinarily, every compliance department, it doesn't matter whether the compliance department is in a telecommunications provider or the compliance department is in a fintech or a bank. It doesn't really matter. In as much as your compliance department, you should ordinarily be looking to implement and get audited relative to this particular standard. But a lot of organizations don't do it because the regulator has not insisted that people should do it. If CBN or the Bank of Ghana says, for example, that everybody should do it, everybody will start to do it. If NICOM says everybody should do it, then everybody is going to start to do it. So that's usually what happens in Africa. People usually will only do what it is that the regulator says that they should do. So I'm going to use my chat room a lot, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions. So please stay with me here. Should the regulator be the one that is defining ISO standards and their adoption? Anybody? Give me your thoughts. You can share your thoughts in the chat room. Should it be the regulator that should be saying to everybody that people should do this? Is that the way it's meant to be? Should it ever be like that? Shouldn't organizations be doing things because they should? Yesterday I was auditing an organization and I was asking them, this is a manufacturing company and they had done all sorts of things, but one of the key things that I saw that they had missed out as an organization is health and safety. 45001, right? Everybody, something on 45001. Why? Because maybe nobody had insisted that they will do it. So my question is, should we be regulator-led? Anybody? Should we be regulator-led when it comes to the adoption of international standards and best practice? Should we be regulator-led? I don't think so. I definitely do not think so. I don't think we should be regulator-led. I think organizations should do the right thing. I think different departments in an organization should look at what it is that they're meant to be doing, and then they should do the right thing. So once again, it's great to have everybody here. I asked that people will give us an introduction, but a lot of people have not done that. But it's fine, whether you decide to do that or otherwise, it's okay. The most important thing is that you're here. I'm going to try to make this session relatively fast. So I'm going to try to cover a lot of things because I've done compliance generally. I'm just going to run through compliance very quickly. I've shared the link in the chat room. I've done compliance in the past, so I'm going to try to quickly run through it right now. But today, I really want to focus on anti-money laundering. But I know that if I jump straight into AML and CFT, a lot of people might struggle. So let me quickly do, I'll do like an overview of what I had done in the past relative to compliance. So because what it is that the recommendation is that yes, you can say you can have some kind of attestation relative to compliance, but within it, all right, you can now state your scope. Your scope can now be AML focused, or it can be something else focused. So you can do compliance. Generally, compliance is a big bucket, but you can then decide that you want, as part of your core scope, to really focus on the AML CFT side of things. But let me quickly do this just so that all of us can be on the same page. Yes, thank you very much. Oluwasegun says regulators should be an enforcer. Organizations should just do the right thing. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, too. And thank you very much, Korede. Organizations should do what it is that they need to do. They don't need the regulator to come to tell them. I have a manufacturing company that has implemented 22301, and I think that's brilliant. I think that's great. The organization has done the right thing. The regulator did not tell them that as an organization, go and implement business continuity. The organization did not say that. The organization did not mandate that at all. Nevertheless, the organization decided to do it, and it makes a lot of as it makes a lot of sense as it is. So yes, pretty much, I don't think companies should wait for the regulator. I think companies should do what it is that they need to do. I think companies should do the right thing, irrespective of the regulator. The regulator might not even be aware of what they should be doing. Sometimes the regulator is lost. Sometimes the regulator is not even aware of what they should be doing. So I don't think any organization should be regulator-led. If you come to your organization and we ask you that, oh, have you looked at NIST? There is a document called NIST CSF 2.0. We come to your organization and you say, oh, the regulator did not say we should look at NIST. I don't think that's a well-run organization. I think any well-run organization should adopt standards. Thank you very much, John. I think well-run organizations should adopt standards, irrespective of what the regulator has said. So let me quickly go through this. As I said, let me do this over the next 20, 30 minutes. I'll try to rush this. I'll try to rush this because some organizations here are not financial services, so they're not overly worried about anti-money laundering. Some organizations are not overly worried about anti-money laundering as it is. So they're worried about the big bucket called compliance. So because some organizations here, compliance generally is what it is that they're worried about, I will speak first about the standard and what can be inside of it. And then I will then do the last hour I will spend specifically on anti-money laundering. This is my dear self. Some of the people on the call know me, and it's my pleasure to be here working with all of you. All right. So once again, the regulator has their responsibilities, but organizations should do the right thing. Of course, if you're in a regulated environment, or if your industry is highly regulated, whether you're in insurance or you're in banking or you're in one of those regulated industries, you must commit to the regulator. You have the responsibility to say that whatever it is that the regulator has come up with, you must meet it. So regulators will tell you all sorts of things for the people that are within the regulated industry. So it's your responsibility to know who your regulator is and what your regulator is about. It is your responsibility to know who your regulator is and what your regulator is about. So regulators have all sorts of responsibilities, and you're regulated, you should know about it. But all of us, all companies are regulated one form or the other. After all, everybody has to do their tax filing. Am I right? So everybody is regulated. So if you go into the chat room, in Nigeria, we have what we call CAC, right? in Ghana, what I've forgotten the equivalent of CAC, where you do company registration in Ghana. You cannot be a legal entity operating in Ghana or in Nigeria or in Kenya without that. So I have people from Kenya on the call. I have people from I have a lot of people from Ghana that are on the call as it is. So you cannot but be all of us are regulated. So it's either we can tag an organization as either low, medium, or highly regulated. Are we all together? We can tag an organization as either low, medium, or highly or highly regulated. So it depends on what exactly it is that the organization is about. But all of us, we have one regulation or the other. The CAC has some demands. The tax entities in Nigeria, if you're within a state and everybody's within one state, in Lagos State, you have LRS. You have the national one, which is FRS. You have who else do we have? You must commit to some of you that they are listed. You have to deal with the SEC and some of those entities. So all of us are regulated one way or the other. It's just that some industries are have low regulations, some have medium, and some have high regulations. But one way or the other, all of us are regulated as it is. Of course, one of the ones that are highly regulated. Can you hear me mute that person, please? There's somebody whose mic is on and there's a lot of noise from the person's background. Can you hear me mute that person, please?
All right, sir. All right, sir.
All right. So, of course, if you're in financial services, everybody that owns any of these licenses from Bank of Ghana or from CBN, they fall under highly regulated. So anybody that falls into any of this is highly regulated, whether they are in any of these categories, because Bank of Ghana, the Bank of Kenya, and CBN. So this is a big deal for everybody that is here. I wonder why organizations don't. I wonder why organizations don't focus a lot on organizations don't focus a lot on compliance. You know, as I said, it doesn't matter what your business is. It doesn't matter what your organization does. You are regulated one way or the other. People in telecommunications are regulated. There's regulation everywhere. So there's regulation everywhere. It's just that sometimes enforcement is a challenge. So some people don't even know that, oh, they must meet certain requirements tied to one authority or the other. Some people don't realize that they need to meet one thing or the other as it is. So I'm going to enjoin all of you. Go and check out what is important and critical to your organization. You speak to HR people, and you speak to HR people, and HR people don't realize that they are regulated. They're HR people, but they don't realize that. So, for example, that an organization should look at the employment and labor laws and see if they are violating any of them. The employment and labor law in your who is HR on the call? Tell me, have you done a review to be certain if your organization is violating the employment or labor law? Have you done that type of review? These are all critical things that that organizations should look at. Is the organization violating something like intellectual property? Right? There's some industries that having insurance is compulsory. Life insurance for some of their employees in certain areas of work, insurance for their building, insurance for their equipment is compulsory in certain industries. Does anybody know such an industry? Right? That something like that is compulsory, but a lot of people don't take these things into consideration. Right? A lot of people don't take these things into consideration. So I'm going to enjoin everybody. Please leave this place knowing that, like it or not, the organization is regulated. Everybody, like it or not, your organization is regulated. There's a client that I was doing some work for a while ago around consumer protection. All right, whether they're violating consumer protection. But for them, they had been in that business for a very long time. They just didn't realize that, that was something that they should be worried about. They've been in that business for a very long time. Okay. Uh, of course, when we do this, we have to look at the karma, and Ghana also has its own version of the karma. So, I mean, is karma only for is karma only for financial services? How come a lot of organizations in other industries are not talking about the Companies and Allied Matters Act and the Ghana equivalent? Why? Some people give me an answer in the chat room. Why is it that a lot of organizations, if we go to oil and gas, you don't even want to know the volume of regulations that they have. Same thing in manufacturing. So I think compliance belongs to all of us. I think we need to demystify compliance as belonging to only people that are in financial services. I think we need to demystify compliance. It's not for only people that are in financial services. All of us have compliance obligations, so to speak, as organizations. I mean, I can talk about this all day. So, I mean, some people, should the organization be calculating CO2 emissions, for example? Okay. I've done a lot of work in aviation. That's another area. All right. I've done a lot of work in aviation. So there are many things that we should be worried about. And we should not do compliance only because we want to bid for government contracts. That's the other thing that happens, right? People would only do compliance because they have one bid and then they want to meet everything. So in Nigeria, for example, when you want to bid for some government contract, they're going to ask you for something called education tax, for example. So they're going to ask you for something like that. So people only think about compliance from one or two perspectives, but there are many areas to think about compliance, depending on your organization, depending on your industry. If you look at number 10 on my screen, right, that's where everything uh, uh, that's where we're looking at everything that's got to do with whether it's a contribution of CO2 to the environment and many other things, how we even manage waste within our organization in itself, right? So that these things, once again, they're very important. And there are all sorts of compliance certificates. I think the compliance regulator in Nigeria, the Compliance Association, we will look at their curriculum. We will look at the Compliance Association, and we're going to look at their curriculum, and you will see that, of course, even the Compliance Association in Nigeria is tilted more towards financial services. You will see it in there that they skipped a lot of things. Even when you go and say you want to become a chartered or certified, a chartered compliance professional, it's tilted very much towards financial services. So, but we need to all realize that compliance is for all of us. Compliance is not only for people that are in fintechs or in banks or in insurance. All of us have compliance responsibilities. So, for example, this is a certificate in compliance. So they talk about the regulator, they talk about risk-based. What is the idea behind risk-based? And of course, that's why even here I started from who is the regulator, who's the general country regulators for certain things, who's the specific regulator for your own for the industry that you're in. And then you can see here it also talks about international dimensions, politics, globalization, technology, the role of compliance, and then of course what are the key things you need to do. So how do we also differentiate compliance from risk? Are they the same? Can anybody help me in the chat room? What's the clear line of differentiation between compliance and risk, right? And then, of course, the concept of AML. AML is a big deal. Is data protection. Who should be I'm always asking this question all the time. Every time I'm taking a data protection session, I'm always saying, who should be the head of data protection in an organization? Should it be the CISO? or should it be the head of compliance, or do we need a third office? So who should be the head of data protection? So you can see on my screen under Unit 4. So you see AML there. You see data protection there also. So why is AML important? Is AML important to all of us, or AML is only important to financial services? Should all of us be worried about anti-money laundering, or should anti-money laundering belong to only the people in financial services? In Ghana, the Bank of Ghana has its own anti-money laundering directive. In Nigeria, we also have ours issued by the CBN. But why is it only the CBN? Why don't we have it as a federal type thing or a national type thing? Because it's not only, should not only be tied to financial services. Of course, because it's the Bank of Ghana and the CBN that is issuing some of these things, other industries don't think it's their concern. So these are some of the challenges, right? So data protection is a big deal under compliance. Who should that be with? Should that be with the Chief Information Security Officer, or should it be with the compliance department? The jury is still out. So there are many things for us to do. I can't talk about any and everything I want to talk about today, because we don't have all the time in the world. This session is a 2-hour session, so I want to do it very quickly as it is. So this organization in Nigeria is great. Ghana has no equivalent of this organization. Does anybody know? All the Ghanaians on the call, all right, is there, what's the equivalent of Compliance Institute in Ghana? You can drop their link in the chat room. But Nigeria has got a great one, the Compliance Institute. Look at their curriculum, everybody. We have to type out their curriculum. So you can see that their curriculum is great. It's brilliant. I just think that it's a bit tilted towards financial services. I just think that it's a bit tilted towards financial services, and it's overly anti-money laundering and CFT focused. That's what I think. It's too focused, too much focus on AML and CFT, anti-money laundering. So you can see, I mean, this is the curriculum, everybody. All right. I'm not trying to run through the whole curriculum during in this class, but you can see in here when it starts to say, so if you look at everything, damage privatization, effort, fighting crime, so everything under module 3 is about AML. But compliance is not equal to AML. What is the percentage of compliance that you think AML is? I might be wrong, but I don't think it is more than 20%. If you look at the broad scope of what compliance should cover, I don't think it's more than 20%. There's compliance with regards to people, there's compliance with regards to technology use, there's compliance with regards to all sorts of things. So I don't think it should be more than 20%. That the whole of AML, and my friend Sakina is on the call, maybe she shares my opinion, I don't think it should be more than 20%. But it looks as if the people equate compliance to AML. AML is just about 20% from my perspective. Once again, I might be wrong. So even if you look at this one like this now, right? Under this module 3, it's very much focused on this is associate compliance. And then look at the module 3, continues. Money laundering again. So look at this module 3. It continues all the way to this place. This is a big deal. I remember I was writing a lot of articles when I attended one what's that thing called? One of the Afrexim events on compliance, and I saw that Nigeria was still amongst the countries, the countries that is still under sanction and under review. But Ghana is not in that category. So clap for the Ghanaians that are on the call. So I put a lot of articles online on the Financial Action Task Force, and Nigeria is still amongst the ones that are questionable, but Ghana used to be there, but Ghana has gone out of it. So, but all that conversation is still under AML. So if you come to do this, if you come to do this training or qualification with the Compliance Institute in Nigeria, you can see that it's very much tilted towards AML. Look at module 1, look at module 2, then look at 3. 3 goes all the way from this page to this page. The whole of this page, we're still discussing AML, suspicious transactions, payment screening, transaction monitoring, and things like this. So it's interesting, but I don't think that, it continues all the way to this place. And then, of course, when you now come to module 4, 5, and 6, you can see other things here. So in an organization, right, once again, who should drive corporate governance? Is it the legal department, or it should be compliance department? Who should drive corporate governance? Right? Who should drive corporate governance in an organization? So you can see under module 4, market abuse, things. So does your organization have a fraud or forensic desk? Anti-bribery is a big deal, and corruption, and then of course corporate governance. So, but you can see under this particular area, right, this associate compliance, 60% of the entire thing is around AML. Module 1, module 2, module 3 is very long, which is AML. Then module 4, 5, and 6, and pretty much that's it. 60% of the entire curriculum is AML. So once again, what who should drive corporate governance? Who should drive corporate governance in an organization? Who should drive corporate governance in an organization? Right? Anti-bribery and corruption. Is this simply a compliance issue? So these are all questions all of you can go back and ask yourself in your own organization. They also have something called designate compliance professional. So once again, you can see the curriculum, right? Of course, GIABA is a big deal, sanction list, and Nigeria is still on some of those sanction lists. Ghana is out of some of them. So international investors look at these things. All right. So pretty much, once again, even under this one, look at module 3, AML again. So external watch list, internal watch list, right? So we need to tell the Compliance Institute that the whole of compliance is not equal to financial services, because a lot of these things are really tied to financial services in themselves, right? So what's the difference between risk management and compliance? Enterprise risk management versus compliance department, are they the same? Are they the same? All right. So this is the standard. Today, as I said, I've done this in the past. You can go online. I've shared the link. Somebody can help me share that link in the chat room again. I do not want to spend all the time today. Today, I really want to look at AML, but I initially want to establish categorically that the whole of compliance is not equal to AML. So there's a compliance management system. I think organizations should adopt it. I definitely think organizations should adopt it. I think all of you should go back and say that, how can my organization adopt this particular standard for compliance, right? So that you can take a much broader look at your compliance management system itself. And it's a requirement document, so it can be certified to it. It's a requirement document, so you can be certified to it. Okay. All right. So this is the whole standard. Some of you that are on the call, you're familiar with management systems, understanding context, needs and expectations, scope. But there are some areas, so you can look in here, there's 4.5 and 4.6. Those things are not, they don't exist in other standards. So it's got 4.5 that says that the organization must really understand their compliance obligations. They must truly understand their compliance obligations, and then they need to do risk assessment relative to their compliance obligations. There's a difference between 4.6 and 6.1. There's a difference between 4.6 and 6.1. Everybody? Okay. Give me a second, please. Let me see. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. But you should have told me that the sound might be coming from my side. So the YouTube link was actually playing in the background. That's why. So I apologize. All right. Um. Uh. Okay. So let me go back to my slide. I want to finish this, but I know that a lot of people, or some people, maybe not a lot, but some people here want to really understand compliance. So that's why I'm doing this. So as I was saying, there is a huge difference between 4.6. The 4.6 here is like 8.2.3 in business continuity that talks about the risk relative to business analysis. I'm sorry, business impact analysis, which is different from the overall side. So this 4.6 is saying the risk around your compliance obligations. Okay. So there are many things in here, right, that we can talk about. There are many things. How can you, I like 8.3, concerns around whether you're meeting all your compliance obligations and how you can investigate in 8.4. 6.2 talks about your objectives and the plans, the compliance objectives and the plans you have put in place. Are there 6.1 talks about, are there opportunities for compliance to add competitive advantage to your organization? Auditors also really need to understand how to do compliance review and compliance audits. That's why that 9.2 is there. So it's an entire management system for compliance. And indeed, I definitely recommend that organizations should do this. So some of you should have this kind. I mean, some of you already have something like this, like some kind of compliance register, legal, regulatory, contractual. What are your legal obligations? What are your regulatory? In fact, there's another word there. So everybody calls statutory. Those four words, are they the same? Can somebody tell me the difference between legal, regulatory, statutory, and contractual? Are they the same? Some people don't understand that there's a difference between what is legal, what is regulatory, what exactly is statutory, and what are contractual requirements. I know the legal and the statutory are very similar. Nevertheless, I have sat with lawyers and they said that there's still some differentiation between everything that is legal and the statutory requirements. So that's register, legal, statutory, regulatory, contractual. There are four things there. Most people don't understand how these things work. When we're doing one review or the other, organizations struggle with some of these things. But you should have a register of some sort. So I want to quickly go through I need to go past a lot of these things, but there are many things. I've already spoken about the regulator, all sorts of guidelines for your industry, internal control, compliance to things that are internal control related. In fact, IT people or information security people think that compliance belongs to them now. They don't understand that compliance is beyond just information security. One of my team members is always talking about compliance, but when you listen to him, you know that he's looking at compliance primarily from a technology or information security perspective. But compliance is more than that. So there are many things to take into consideration. Your contract, once again, your contractual requirements, data either from a privacy perspective or even from an analytics and reporting perspective. Under corporate governance, there's something that talks about data-driven decision making. That the decisions that you're making as an organization, that they're driven by data. So that's a big deal. So you can't, the whole of data is not privacy. You know, a lot of people misunderstand some of these things. Data is a bigger concept than just the privacy side of it. Privacy in itself and data protection is a subset of data management. And I hope you will. So when we're talking about the data can be functional, but it might even be secure, but it might not necessarily be private. So PII is a different conversation. All right, personally identifiable information. All right, is not even equal to. It's just one aspect of security, because we're not even looking at whether the transactions are confidential, they have integrity, or they are available. We're just talking about are you collecting personally identifiable information, and how are you managing that? So people think that the whole of data management is privacy. No, your data you might manage the privacy side, right? But you might be struggling with the analytics and even the intelligence side of the data in itself. So once again, this is a huge area of compliance. People don't realize that if you go to oil and gas, compliance is massive, especially in upstream. In fact, I'll almost tell you that what the upstream people have to deal with in compliance is probably almost maybe the same or even more in comparison to what financial services have to deal with. But because a lot of us are not in that industry, so we don't realize that that oil and gas, that entire oil and gas value chain, that compliance is a massive deal for them. So that's where health and safety and environment and all these kinds of things, this is where they come in. There's a company we're doing some work with around climate adaptation. We're auditing them in terms of climate adaptation as we speak. So these are all key things. People don't take into consideration that there's compliance when it comes to health and safety. And this is a big deal. And well, because the regulator in certain industries have not made this compulsory, people assume that, oh, you shouldn't really worry about this. But they must not die under your employment. People should not get injured. I used to watch Suits a lot. It was one of my favorite series. Now there's Suits New York, but it's not the same, right? Watching Harvey and Mike, right? So you see Mike taking up a lot of cases that they've seen organizations, because people are now ill because they used to work for the organization, but now they've taken ill post working for the organizations. So if you don't know what Suits is, maybe you should ask me. Well, we were also used to like to watch Suits, right? So these are all areas of compliance that all of us should worry about. There's compliance risk assessment, not enterprise risk. There's compliance risk. There's compliance risk that everybody needs to take into consideration. So once again, you ask organizations these things, they show you enterprise risk or they show you information security risk. But this is not just about information security. You can do this across many areas in your organization. So also, who are those that qualify to become what we can call the compliance officer or like a chief compliance officer? What are the kinds of things that the person must know? What should the person take into consideration to say that you qualify to become or to be some sort of compliance officer in an organization? Which of these things are critical? Which of them can you ignore? All right. Which of them are critical? Which of them can you ignore? Once again, these are key things that you want to take into consideration. How do you measure if compliance is working in your own organization? What are the KPIs for compliance? So, once again, I'm going to enjoin you. Go back and really think about compliance in your organization. Are you doing compliance? Look at 4.8 on my screen, everybody. Look at 4.8 on the HR side. There's so many things on the HR side. Pensions is one of them. Okay? So these are all key things, right? So you can take these steps into consideration, right? So many things that you need to do. Are your people trained adequately? Do you have compliance champions in certain departments? You yourself that you're in compliance, are you doing the right thing? Do you know what to do? Are you taking these things into keen consideration? And then, of course, every organization should have some kind of compliance universe that kind of captures everything that has got to do with compliance in your own organization. Some people have to deal with customs. Some people are in the construction industry. Some people are in the shipping industry. Different people some people are in the health industry. There are hospitals. There are key things that they must comply to. So and you cannot go to lift the one that belongs to another organization. You might be able to leverage the one that belongs to another organization in your own industry. But even the way and the manner by which you're going to approach it is going to be different. So, yeah, I mean, I've spoken about sanction lists. Nigeria, I've written about all these things, I think on LinkedIn or something. How do we trace who is the ultimate beneficial owner? And this is where some of those AML conversations now come in. We're going to be holding a session on fraud. I think it is, I don't even know. I think it's this month. We'll share the flyer with you. We're going to be holding a session on fraud and even forensics. Not just fraud, it's both fraud and forensics. How do you trace people find a way to divert. Somebody has stolen money, then they will invest in what are the top 3 industries? Let me ask people that have stolen either government funds or money from somewhere. What are the top 3 industries that they invest in? What are the top 3? When people have stolen a lot of money, a lot of that money goes into what? Into real estate. Into real estate. So people have to find a way to divert the money. I remember I worked on something where all the monies had gone from Nigeria, that gone outside of the country, that gone into some kind of small investment company. The investment company now came into Nigeria, and the investment company started investing in many buildings. When they now did when we traced some of those things, the investment company was made up of 2 persons outside of the country. They had 2 employees. One of them was even part-time. They pretty much had 1 full-time employee. So they had diverted the funds, and then they had looked for a way to bring the funds back into the country. So you have to talk about who is the person that owns the benefits from all these things. And it requires a lot of tracing. For you to really trace the thing. We're going to talk about AML in a short bit, but this is one of the key concepts that we're going to look at for you to be able to say ultimately who is the beneficial owner of the funds or the profits or whatever that is going to be coming from these transactions. I think in Africa we don't pay enough attention to fraud. Or actually we probably know, all of us just close our eyes to these things. I mean, one of the things somebody was saying to me, that if you go to, what's the name of that? If you go to FIRS has some things that they've declared. The number of people that pay beyond, have forgotten the amount of money, in taxes in the country. There's a particular band that there are less than 1,000 entities in the whole country. Now, if there are less than 1,000 entities that pay this amount of tax, then who owns all the massive buildings that are around? That's a problem. That people own all these high rises and then they're not paying their taxes. But I guess maybe everybody just ignores these things. Maybe it's not that we don't know. So that's a big deal. We're also going to talk about KYC because, as I said, the second half of this session, I want to speak about AML a lot. So we're also going to talk about KYC. What is the risk around KYC? Right? How do people bypass KYC? How do people approach these things? In Yolua, maybe you should look for the top 5 platforms that a lot of people are using in Nigeria and Ghana for compliance. How's everybody doing their KYC? How do people bypass this? You know, my brother was defrauded at some point in time, and people are still doing all these things as at today. And the monies went into a bank account. How are people bypassing the bank KYC as at today? Share your thoughts with me in the chat room. I have a lot of experts that are on the call. Right? So please let others benefit from your experience. How are people? I mean, people who do a transaction on Instagram, the money is deposited into a bank in Ghana, Nigeria. And then the day you go, they'll say that the bank account belongs to one old woman who is in the village somewhere who can't even read and write. How are people bypassing these things? Why is this still happening? What exactly should organizations be doing with regards to KYC? Right? Why is it that people don't have validated systems when it comes to payment and transaction screening? Why is this an area that a lot of organizations are struggling with? Why? Why are organizations struggling with this? Because fraud is still happening. People are still using bank accounts to do fraudulent activities, to carry out and to consummate fraudulent activities. Proceeds of money laundering is still happening everywhere. Is it that we don't have systems, or we have systems and we ignore the alerts, the notifications that are coming from the systems? Why are these things happening even as at today? Which of the entities do people use to do maybe a politician or somebody who's stealing funds? Will they use a bureau de change to launder money? Will they use a bank? Will they use an insurance company? Will they use a pension company? Can people use fintechs to launder money? Can a fintech be used to launder money, to do money laundering? Can a fintech be used for that particular purpose? How will a fintech be used? What is the volume of transaction? CBN has a real-time gross settlement system. All right, they have all sorts of other systems that help from this perspective. What is the threshold that of the transactions that a fintech can process within a month that should raise an alarm or an alert? These are the key things that organizations should worry about. Right? How is your organization being used to launder money? Okay, we've talked about the compliance universe. Yeah. Yeah, so we're also going to look at some of these things. So, I mean, and of course, in financial services, there are all sorts of international organizations that you have to deal with. There are all sorts of international organizations and guidelines and regulations from international organizations that you have to deal with. I think here I also put all the columns that I think should be in a compliance register. I put all the columns that should be in a compliance register. Okay, these. So you should have a complete and a reviewed version, an accurate one of a compliance register. All right, so I'll talk about some of these things. So once again, what is this? What is the anti-money laundering chain? How will it happen? Which account is it going to abroad? Where do lawyers come in? How do you transfer money to an account outside of the country? How much can you transfer per time? What are the processes that the banks have put in place that allows them to be able to say you cannot transfer more than this, $20,000 per month? But how do people bypass that? Because people still transfer millions of dollars in a month. What are the ways by which they bypass these things? How do we differentiate between the transactions that are illicit? What about I run a legitimate business, but I want to do transfers of $1 million in a month? Why should I be punished, me that I do a legitimate business? Why should some of the sanctions and some of some of the deterrents that have been put in place by the CBN, why should they also affect people that are doing legitimate business? Okay, so there's a lot of thinking around it. There is a lot of thinking around how is money laundering happening. Is there anybody that is complicit? Is there a government institution? Is there a regulator? Is there a monetary entity that is also complicit when it comes to money laundering? So once again, financing of terrorism. This is happening. Even if you go on the news, especially in Nigeria, Ghana does not have too much of this. But in Nigeria, this is happening. Right? You know that thing that they said one of the military presidents have said? He said if there is an uprising or whatever he said, it is that he said, and it lasts beyond 24 or 48 hours, then you need to know that the government a government institution is involved. So how is it that the terrorists they are better funded? How is the money getting to them? Where are international other countries? Where are they complicit? Where are other countries? How come that they will see some ammunitions, and if you look at the quality of those ammunitions, it's even better than what the military of the country has got. Who is financing terrorism? How are they doing it? Where are they passing this money through? Are they taking it in cash? This money is for terrorism. Are they passing through the banking system? Is blockchain also enabling this? If I build a blockchain system, is it enabling this? I was reading some document, which is some kind of audit checklist for a blockchain system. Can I effectively audit the transactions that are going through blockchain? Isn't the idea behind going through blockchain my inability to be able to audit the transactions in itself? Right? How do you trace this? How is it that everybody that is putting up all these high-rise buildings, they are not reflected in the tax system being held by FRS? And why is nobody doing anything about it? So if you look at financing of terrorism, where raise, move, store, and spend, how is this happening? Funding, where does it come from? Where will they pass it through? Don't you and I, don't we still have to do business via a bank? How come, despite and in spite of everything that the banks have put in place, these things happen every day? Every day. Is the banks themselves, are they complicit when it comes to money laundering and financing of terrorism? Okay. How are we detecting the quality of the system that is being used to screen transactions in every bank. So there's so many questions. As I said, one of the concerns is that we wanted to do some work a while ago, and we had to transfer a lot of money. And the bank kept on telling us we could not do more than this per period. We could not do more than this per period. We put it in our one bank account. They say it's tied to my BVN, so we couldn't do it. So we were severely restricted in being able to quickly get that business done. And this was a legitimate business. Right? So I don't have all the answers. Each organization has got to really think about this. How does this apply? And many other things as it is. So the concept of placement, the concept of layering, the concept of integration. All right? So please share your thoughts in the chat room. You can even share links, because that's what this is. And that's why I'm saying that the whole of compliance cannot be anti-money laundering, because there's so many. What is the percentage of companies or banks or entities that are doing money laundering and financing terrorism? What is the percentage? 1, 2, 3. It can't be up more than 5%. Where will I get money to launder? What kind of business am I doing? So it can't be more than 5% of businesses. So the whole of compliance cannot be equal to anti-money laundering. And I hope I have appropriately established that. Nevertheless, there's a lot that I'm going to say today on money laundering. All right? Because and I know that the reason why we focus on financial services organizations is because these monies have to pass through them. But shouldn't we also focus on real estate? Right? Which other industry, when somebody wants to launder money, which other industry, please go to the chat room. Which other industry is big? Is shipping and marine, is it big? Is import and export, is it big to use for money laundering? Is export like a big market? Funny enough, people who do money laundering, do they go into farming? Tell me, the people who do money laundering, do they build hospitals? Do they go into farming? People who do a lot of money laundering, do they build universities? Are churches also involved? And mosques? Churches and mosques, are they also involved with money laundering? Are the churches and the mosques, are they complicit one way or the other? Right? So once again, everybody, these are big things. So can somebody put the Iniolua Adesha, can you put where we are, Nigeria? There's a screenshot from the FATF. Where is Nigeria on that place as at today? Last year, I was at the Afrexim compliance thing in Senegal, and we were doing badly. The Ghana people were rejoicing. All right. So where is Nigeria on this FATF? Despite and in spite of everything. So this is international. Maybe somebody should help us. What did Ghana do to get out of it? Why is Nigeria not learning from it? How did Ghana sort this out as a country? And why are we unable to do that? Why are we stuck as a country that we're still in the red? Right? So this is a big deal. So that means this thing is not just a company issue, it's also a country issue. Because they rate each country based on these 40 things. When I'm looking for the bit that talks about Nigeria and where we are, there's an image. Maybe Bodo can look for it. It's just Nigeria and where are we? Where are we? Have we gotten better despite and in spite of everything here? Okay, so pretty much that's it. There's so many things I can do here. Okay, so NFIU, CBN, NICON, National Reporting Council. This is a big deal everywhere. This is a big deal. The Bank of Ghana guidelines for money laundering. Funny enough, the content is typically the same, whether it's Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria. By and large, the content is the same. You can go look at it appropriately. The content is pretty much the same. Content is pretty much the same. Right. So another organization that is a big deal, but you know, a lot of organizations and even countries that are primarily just interested in window dressing. They want to window dress for this whole thing. They want to give an impression that they're doing these things, but they're not doing them. All right. So, as I said, the whole of compliance is not AML. Compliance is beyond AML, but we're going to look at AML today. There are many things to take into consideration for compliance. Having a compliance dashboard is also very important. Having a compliance dashboard in your own organization or for your own organization is also very important. Okay, good. So, and then I have some bits in here. I can't really talk about this right now. How can artificial intelligence help with regards to this? As I said, you can get certified to this standard. You can get certified to this standard. There are many organizations that can certify you to this standard in itself. So that's the end of part 1. Let me go into the chat room and see what people are saying. Please, everybody, I was asking a lot of questions. Thank you very much, Daniel. Are people, the people that are doing okay crypto? Thank you very much. People are also passing proceeds of illicit funds, right? Some of them that religious bodies too, because they are not audited. So somebody should please help me with the FATF report and where Nigeria is. Somebody should help me with the FATF report and where exactly Nigeria. So once again, these are key things. Real estate. I definitely know about real estate because I've investigated some as a person. Daniel, the 4.6 is meant to be tied specifically to your compliance obligations. The other one, which is 6.1, is meant to be tied to the whole organization. So, but 4.6 is specifically to your compliance obligations, right? And also in 6.1, you're meant to go through the entire assessment chain. In 6.1, you should go through the entire assessment chain. Okay, I've got like 2 clients that are certified to the standard already. So everybody, let me hear some recommendations from you. Let me hear some recommendations. What can be done to ensure that that this is done appropriately? What can be done? What should be done? What can be done? What should be done to reduce anti-money laundering, which is a big deal in the country? So I'll quickly go through this, and then I will round up today. But I think I have laid the right background and the right foundation. And as I said, I've done this in the past. It's on YouTube. I'll share the link again. So for people who really have to take compliance forward in their own organization, but every organization really needs to look at its own compliance obligations. So I've done this in the past. So this is it. I've done this in the past. Transport and logistics, yes. Because once again, a lot of people don't go to invest in farms to help with SDG 3. A lot of people are not interested in long-term things. When people are taking illicit funds, they are looking for ways to quickly go around it. So when people are taking illicit funds, they don't want long thing. They don't want long conversation. They just want to quickly look for how to make money from to how to pass it. And real estate. Somebody said hospitality. Now crypto is one of them. All right. So yeah, it's possible, but people don't go to. They're not going to go into farming. They're not going to go into farming. They're going to go into things. And I mean, the areas where, well, as I said, in a couple of weeks or days, we're going to be doing something specifically around fraud. And I'm working with some clients around setting up their fraud and forensic desk and how to approach their fraud and forensic desk. So whether it's the Ghana AML CFT, all right, or it is the Nigerian one or it's the Kenyan one, they're all pretty much the same. The content for all of them are pretty much the same. So AML. So some people keep wondering that what do these terminologies mean? Okay, AML, right? CFT, right? CPF, the countering proliferation of financing in a specific instance, which is for what? How to fund weapons of mass destructions. Okay? How to fund weapons of what? Mass destruction. As I said, everything about compliance is not here. This is only a part of compliance. But today, I definitely want to deal with this. I want to deal with this. So please learn the acronyms. It's useful. AML, CFT, CPF, the countering the proliferation of financing of WMD. Who is financing all the Sambisa forest, the Boko Haram, war, and those things? Where is the money coming from? Where is the state involved? Is it possible that these entities will just keep doing these things for almost how many years now? Almost 10 years or more. But at least in the last 10 years, it's been a big deal. Right? Where is the funding coming from? Those are some of the things we're here to look at. So you can download the Nigerian document. Is available. You can go ahead and download it. The Ghana version is also available. The Kenyan version is also available. So all of you can go ahead and download these documents. If you are like someone like me that enjoys reading these kinds of things, right? Since I don't have, I enjoy reading these kinds of things. So one day I'll just sit down and print both here and start to read the whole of both here and start underlining it. Right? Banks and other Financial Institutions Act. Right? Sometimes I just out of boredom. It's not out of boredom. It's usually tied to a client engagement. So what exactly is the content of both here? How can you review both here? In my audit work, this is part of my work. I have to review this. I have to audit things like this and give an independent opinion different from what the compliance people even are doing. So, but I know this is very important to compliance people. So once again, Ghana has a similar type document. All right, so Kenya has a similar type document. Same, they're all pretty much the same thing. All right, so this is what I want us to focus on as I round up. Okay, so this is the document in itself. Okay, so if you're going to want to get this right, you need to go and read the documents. If you want to get it right, you need to go and read the actual document. You need to spend some time reading the document in itself. All right. So once again, if you're someone like myself that enjoys reading cryptic things like this, you would enjoy the designated categories and the offenses, the definition of the offenses, the financial sanctions, and all the things around confidentiality. as part of the investigation, how do we now manage things around secrecy and confidentiality with regards to investigation? How do we draw a line between secrecy and confidentiality? How do we draw a line? How do we draw a line there? So there are many portions of this thing that can be implemented. So if I come to your organization and I come to review this, I'm going to review specifically what you have done relative to these 20 requirements under part 3. I am going to, yes, Bodun, yes, that's it. Right? Yeah, that's the list, the great list. All of us that are still here. Okay, as at the 25th of October. Yes, Bodun, that's it. So if I'm coming to audit you, especially if you want me to say, if you want to be certified, right, to 37301 with AML being within your scope statement specifically, then you must provide answers to these things. I'm coming to audit you, right? So, for example, you must have an AML policy. So everybody, let's start to look at them one by one, or one after the other. You must have an AML policy that has been built and that has been appropriately adopted, right, and signed off. And if you know me well, I always say this: our audits are never tied to the ownership of a policy. Our audits are never tied to the ownership of a policy. Our audits are always tied to the evidence of the execution of the policy. Two different things: the ownership of a policy, the evidence around the execution of the policy in itself. So two completely different things, right? Two completely different things. And people think sometimes that these things are the same, right? Somebody will tell me, I was still with a big organization, massive organization yesterday. One of my colleagues has taken over from me today because I am here. And they showed us some very beautiful policies. And my question was, where is the evidence of the execution of these things? So we started looking at the policy line by line. Where is the evidence? You said management will ensure this, this, this. Where is the evidence that management has done that? Management will ensure this, this, this. Where is the evidence that that has been done? So that's number one, under part 3. That's why I put 20 key requirements there. Now look at number 2, right? So once again, your AML policy must be great and it must be board approved. What about if you don't have a board? What about if you don't have a board? What will happen? Executives have to approve it. Okay? So it's not just about the policy, it's also about its approval and even its communication. Sometimes my clients do not communicate adequately. Sometimes my clients do not communicate adequately whatever policy it is that they have. If you go to number 3, right, that means compliance is not is not an event. It's not something you do once. So the expectation of this particular document is that what? You should have a program, like an annual program. Sometimes we talk about operational planning. Like, what are you going to do in January, in February, in March, in April, in May, in June, in July, relative to compliance, relative to this AML in this instance? Okay. So number 3, you must have a program. It's not an event. Number 4, you must have compliance risk assessment. This is not general risk assessment for the organization. This is specific to your compliance obligations. Which ones are high, medium, or low risks? Which ones are high, medium, or low risks? Now, if you know anything about risk assessment, according to 31,000, there are 3 elements within it. There is the identification of the risk, there is the analysis of the risk, then there is the evaluation of the risk. Now, according to 31,000, there is treatment, but here they've now moved the treatment and they've called it, how do you mitigate the risks? It also means that you must have defined your risk appetite ahead of time. So if I'm coming to audit your organization, and I know that some of the people that are on this call, I'm going to be auditing you soon, right? That's why you're here for this training. So I'm telling you that, so I'm giving you my expo ahead of time, because some of you want to get certified to 37301 with AML and CFT and CPF as part of your scope statement. This is what I'm coming to audit. So I'm exposing you to what I'm coming to audit ahead of time. All right. Number 6, everybody, it says you must have a compliance officer. The person at the very minimum must have attended a training class like this one. At the very minimum, must have attended a training class like this one. Okay? And the person should probably be certified or do whatever. We're talking about compliance specifically. This is not IT compliance, so this is not CISA, one of those things, CISSP. We're speaking specifically about enterprise compliance here. This is not IT, because some of the information security people on the call think that they can use the information security qualification in place of number 6. No, that's not true. Number 7, right? Who is the independent reviewer of compliance? Compliance cannot review compliance. So some entities must review compliance. Internal control can review them, internal audit can review them, external audit can review them. It also means that there must be a chain between the internal control activities, compliance activities, and the audit activities. So, all right, internal control and compliance are second line functions, while audit is the third line function. Are we together? Right? So, I'm also going to ask you number 8. This your compliance program, is it appropriate? Some of my clients will go, they'll go to another organization, go to another bank, and they will go and pick something that is not theirs. They just go and pick something from somewhere, something they used to use in their former organization. You know that there's nothing that I see more than that. So I'm going to, because it's my job, I see about 100 plus of these things every year. So I'm going to test whether your compliance program is fit for you, or you just went to copy the one they used to use in your former organization. People will move from one fintech to the other, and then pack everything that they used to use in the other organization and pack it into the new company. Okay, so this is not LinkedIn competence. You know what is called LinkedIn competence. This is for real. So I'm going to review these things. I've reviewed it for some organizations. I will review it for you. Okay. Now, if you come to number 9, prohibition of numbered or anonymous accounts, actions in fictitious names, and shell banks. This is where I'm going to start asking you, where are the documents for the registration, CSE registration. Who are the directors in the organization? Where is the BVN? All right. We're going to review your transaction. So you will log onto the transaction system, whether it is with you, whether it is with InterSwitch, whether it is with eTransact, we will log on to it. We will now start to review it together. What are these transactions? Where are they being originated from? Where are they going to? Which bank accounts do you have as an organization, in country and outside of the country? That's why 10 talks about your foreign branches and subsidiaries. We will tell you to extract where all the people that you have been sending monies to. Of course, in some organizations, if you come to do this for my own company now, it's not a problem. We buy exams every day. So we will show you all our monies will go to the same exam providers or to the same audit companies or to the companies that we buy software from. Right? So it's clear. Or sometimes our international consultants. But when we start to look at yours, sometimes organizations are actually complicit. That means I've done this before for an organization that is actually using their company as a, what did they call it, for money laundering. So the people wanted to get a pass when they knew that they were actually using their transactions and their accounts for money laundering. All right. I'm also going to review how you're working with your regulators or whoever it is, your external stakeholders. That is what that 11 is talking about. Your cooperation with competent authorities, the various authorities that you're working with. For an organization that is not complicit, this is an easy thing to do. But for some other organizations, this is a lot of work that needs to be done. This is a lot of work that needs to be done, so that especially the ones that want to hide it and hide it properly. Right? So due diligence. So we start to look at KYC. All right. We start to look at how you yourself, you do your customer due diligence. We start to look at what are the things you collect. Do you collect their NIN? Do you collect their BVN? When I'm doing this review, I take my eyes off what's that thing called? Data protection, because at this time I am not there specifically for data protection. But if we're doing the whole of 37001, I have to look at data protection. So I must see how you are actually protecting the NIN and the BVN records in your custody. I must see specifically how you're protecting the NIN and the BVN in your custody. So it's not just that you're collecting people's BVNs. Are you also protecting it within your custody? Okay. And then how do you yourself internally, how do you verify the beneficial owners of the proceeds of the transactions? How do you do that? Okay. What is your verification approach? There's a fintech that I did at some point in time. They had fixed everything here. Everything under this part 4, they had gotten everything right. The way they do their due diligence, they automated it. They were doing it for end customers. They were doing it for their merchants. It was brilliantly done. Okay. So note number 5 is saying is that if you're doing this after maybe you started doing this in year 5, how do you now apply some of these things to your customers from year 1 to year 4? That's what that number 5 under part 4 is talking about. That how did you used to do due diligence before this your new approach to doing the due diligence? All right? What happens? Will you go ahead, like in some banks, they'll go ahead and open the bank account, even with the customer due diligence not being done appropriately or not being completed, which is number 6, failure to complete the customer due diligence. This is the work that we do. It's also important if you've already broken your customers into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, high risk, medium risk, low risk, based on the kind of products or the kinds of transactions that they're doing. Okay? And then, of course, that is what that number 7 and 8 is talking about. That your KYC, if it's high risk customer or high risk product, you should do a deeper level of KYC. If it's high risk, if you yourself, so that means there must be a way by which you can determine if this particular customer that wants a certain kind of product is high, medium, or low risk. Okay, and then number 9, the identification of intermediaries and third parties. So some people outsource KYC, outsource CDD, the customer due diligence, right? So that entity that you have outsourced to must also provide a lot of things. It's like a data center, am I right? You take your stuff to a data center. Now that data center must also be PCI certified. They must also be 27001 certified. So the person you have outsourced your KYC and your CDD to must answer a lot of questions. And that's important. If you come to part 5, so the core things we look at, they're under part 3 and part 4. Of course, we also still look at the ones under, we also look at the ones under, what's it called? We also look at the ones under 5 and 6 and 7. But the core of the matter is under part 3 and part 4. But others are also in there. But if you are past 3 and 4, these other ones won't be a problem. So if you look at part 5, right? How do you do this? But some people don't even have high risk customers, so they don't have a problem. Right? So they don't have a problem. But for people who have high risk customers, that's why I say that in Africa, we don't do these things right. Because people have been doing this AML for years. And when I'm talking to some of my friends that are in all sorts of places, they're telling me that the doctor, we can't really pass this. Like, we can't give you evidence for this. Because they have not taken some of these things into keen consideration. There's a reporting document from CBN, but the reporting document is not layered like this. So it's possible that you can skip some things. So, for example, number 2 is a big deal under part 5. Number 2 under part 5 is a big deal. How do you determine that? Do you have a system in your own organization that you use, a checklist, the basis for number 2 under part 5? All right? How does your organization do number 3? Is it even applicable? Because that's the thing, right? Some of these things might not be applicable. Right? But if it's applicable, what is the due diligence that is being done to number 3 under part 5? All right? Is number 4 applicable to your organization? Because it might not be. Might be, it might not be. Okay? Is number 5 applicable? Money transfer or value transfer services. Right? Is it applicable? It's not applicable to every organization. You do wire transfer. It's applicable to some, not applicable to some. So when we start asking that, go and bring all the wire transfer done throughout the whole of last year. Okay? Now, are you dealing with high risk countries? So what is the business that you're doing with number 7 under part 5? Big deal. Big deal. Okay? Massive deal in itself. So if I can see transactions going to Iran, then, or Iraq, even the CBN system should have flagged that. So what do you get to do with those countries? All your plenty transactions with Libya. Okay. All right. And then of course, part 6 just says that you must have records. So before by the time you're getting to part 6, it says you should have records. All right. Part 7, you need a system. Of course, if your transactions are not a lot, you can manually be doing this. But for big organizations, big fintechs, big banks, you need a system for part 7. You need a system for part 7. You need a system for part 7. Because if there's a lot of transactions, how are you going to do this? Sometimes when I ask people for the third one under part 7, they don't have an answer. So under that part 7, you have 1, 2, 3. Some organizations, they don't have an answer. I've been to an organization before, they said the system is not working. They said the system is not working. So how are they sending these things in all the time if it's not working? Right? So by the time you get here, there are about 36 different controls. My audit report has about almost 50 things. Because in this instance, I'm not submitting to CBN. I'm submitting to the international organization that is going to issue your certificate. So I must provide an answer, especially because I want to include AML under your scope statement. So I must do the work, and I cannot falsify a report. I cannot lie on your behalf. And even if you don't get certified, it's good to do this kind of exercise. Even if you don't get certified, it's good to do this type of exercise. So who's able to pass part 8, training, all the things that have got to do with employees? All right? In Ghana, they do a lot of police report, and it comes out very quickly. Almost every organization in Ghana has got police reports for their employees, not senior employees, everybody. But in Nigeria, we only do police reports for a certain category or cadre of employees. So that means there's a difference between how each country looks at it. Right? So here, this is pretty much around what you need to do around due diligence. Okay? For legal entities and all sorts of arrangements. Not everything like this applies. So your organization might not be a public registered company, might not be an executorship account. So not everything here applies. So the idea is that we will look at what it is that applies. Foreign consulate might not apply to your organization. So there are many things that might not apply here as it is. So pretty much about 50 key things if you want to get your 37001 certificates. All right, 37301 with AML as part of it. All right, it's good for you to go in Ghana, in Kenya, and look at the requirements from the equivalent of your financial intelligence organization. As I said, we're doing something on fraud, working with some of the government agencies in another 2 weeks. So we're going to have something along those lines. So your organization should go and, this is generic. It's not useful. People like these kinds of things. It's good, but it's generic. It doesn't speak specifically to your own organization. In doing this, you have to get a competent entity to really look at this and identify what is missing, what is broken, what needs to be included, what needs to be taken out, so that when I come, I can review it. For most banks, they are not far from the kingdom of God or kingdom of compliance, I say, the heaven of compliance. Most banks are not far. I think most banks will score maybe 50, 60, 70%. So that there's some areas that they might not be doing well. Some people are not doing well in 2.4 on my screen. Some people are not doing well in 3.3. Some people are not doing well in different areas. Some people in 6.4 that they're doing badly. Different people or different persons are doing different things badly. The most important thing is that you need to take these things into consideration, and then you need to really deal with compliance appropriately in your own organization. Brilliant. So please, everybody, go into the chat room. What are your thoughts? Where do you think Nigerian organizations are? Ghanaian organizations, what are your recommendations as we bring this class to a beautiful close? All right. Okay, so people have shared some links in the chat room. Jurisdictions. Yeah, know the rating, know your country rating. Yes, thank you very much, Ini. Nigeria is 221. I cover my face. I cover my face. I cover my face. All right, I cover my face. Everybody, please come into the chat room. Give me some of your recommendations quickly. What do you think organizations need to do right? What do you think organizations need to do better? Where do you think companies are struggling? Do you think they're struggling? So I'll share my screen again. Where do you really think that companies are struggling? How many organizations are really training people? Right? How many organizations are training people when it comes to these things? Are organizations really training their employees? All right, tell me. Where do you think organizations need to get better? Where? What do you think companies need to do better? Tell me. Everybody in the chat room, where do you think companies need to do better? All right. Do you think ISO 37301, some of you that are in compliance, do you think it's useful? I will share the slides with you, so it's not a problem. They'll put the attendance in the room. If you feel the attendance, we will share it with you. All right. What do you think is the challenge? Where do you think companies are struggling? Where? Where do you think is the challenge? Where do you think organizations are struggling? What should organizations do better? What is your advice? What is your recommendation to organizations? Anybody in the chat room, please? What do we all, because that's the key thing, right? What do we all need to do better? What do we all need to do better? Where do we need to improve? In which area do we need to improve as organizations? Where do we need to improve? Please, give me some of your thoughts in the chat room. We've pretty much come to an end of this session. Okay. We want to do AML in Nigeria. I'm going to judge you based on about some 40 key things, my reporting. Is it important? Should organizations even be worried about this at all? Right? Where do you think we are all failing? Where do you think we can get better? Please help me as we bring this to a close. Help me as we bring this to a close. All right, quickly. 6:01. All right, good. Whistleblowing. See, see something, say something. So whistleblowing. So, but for an organization to do whistleblowing, you have to ensure that you protect the whistleblowers, that you put adequate controls in place. You must protect the whistleblowers. We're dealing with that kind of issue somewhere right now. You encourage people to do whistleblowing, but the organization has not put adequate controls in place. All right. So, yes. Ayodeji says, please share the attendance training nights, people. It says company needs to apply effective tools to monitor suspicious transactions, right? Related earlier and take early action. Thank you very much, Ayodeji Morakio. Emmanuel says awareness and training is important. Absolutely. You know, I mean, sometimes I'm speaking with an organization that has been doing AML, and I'm now nitpicking some of these things, and they're struggling in certain areas. So that definitely is. There are about 40 requirements under the AML. I'm talking about AML now, not the 37001, because you can do 37301 without really focusing on AML. But somebody that wants to focus on AML in Nigeria, there will be about some 40 requirements, key requirements that they need to meet. Now, the organization that is not doing money laundering, then this is easy to do. In 1 month, they can be done. But for an organization that has plenty to hide, those are the ones that it takes forever. Patrick says, discipline when it comes to application of the content in certification. Staying disciplined in business environment is the hardest hurdle. Yes, I mean, absolutely. Discipline is not the word that any of us we like. I don't like the word. All of us run away from discipline. I'm not even disciplined enough to go to the gym all the time. So, hey, that's important. Mr. Boating here, Gaini Boating says organizations are struggling in most parts of the field simply because compliance tone at the top is missing. Thank you very much, Mr. Richardson. Thank you. They see compliance officers as business blockers. You're right. So every time they are begging the compliance person to relax the compliance rules so that they can do business. So there's a concept I discussed it with somebody a while ago. Compliance as a competitive advantage. And I'm not talking about IT compliance. Now I'm talking about compliance generally. So please answer me in the chat room, everybody. Can compliance really become a competitive advantage? Can anybody help me in the chat room? Really, truly, compliance truly become a competitive advantage? Can compliance truly become a competitive advantage? So this is right. I feel that the first step is to ensure there's proper awareness training. I agree with you. I don't think there is enough awareness. I don't think there's enough training. I don't think there's enough orientation. All the way from the board to the executives. All the way from the board to the executives. All the way from the board to the executives. I definitely don't think so. Richard, how you doing, Richard? Compliance because they are not prioritizing. Yeah, well, yeah. Continuous training. Aguro, thank you. Adedapo, we need to have effective transact. I agree with you. Dashboard, indexes, the track measures. Absolutely. How can I do an audit for you and you tell me that you have the system, but the system is not working? Somebody told me that, oh, they have the system, but they have not renewed it. That because it's a SaaS platform that they've not renewed it. How do you even come up with those kinds of things? How do you even say that to an auditor? That you have it, but it's not been renewed, right? And this is your transaction monitoring system, your TMS. So there are currently no well-structured system in place to detect suspicious transactions, right? This is Ibrahim, right? All right, this is Ibrahim. Organizations need to adopt robust monitoring systems and ensure these systems are integrated with national databases. That's the problem, right? That integration with a national database is a big challenge. Enhance transparency, improve information. So yes, can you integrate with all the entities that you're meant to be integrating with? I asked a question, everybody, can compliance really, I'm not talking about conceptually now, I'm saying for real, can compliance be a competitive advantage? Like really, for real, can compliance be a competitive advantage? Give me your thoughts. I have a lot of great people on this call. Share your thoughts and your opinion with me. All right. Emmanuel says companies should have an adequate budget for equipping the compliance officer with tools. That's another issue. So sometimes the compliance officer is asking for a budget for tools. They don't even give them budget for training. Okay. Enforcement oversight, that is true. Yes. But I want to get people to tell me, really, can compliance become a competitive advantage for an organization? Describe how, in very measurable terms. How can compliance become competitive advantage in very measurable terms? Samuel says clients trust companies that have gone through the measures to be marked compliant. Absolutely. So the other question I'll ask is, compliance, the difference between compliance as in its form versus compliance in its essence. Anybody? What is the difference? Compliance in its form, a form of compliance versus the essence of compliance. Which one are organizations interested in? Anybody? Which ones are organizations are interested in? Which one? The form of compliance or the essence of compliance? Which one are organizations involved with? The form of compliance or the essence of compliance? Share your thoughts with me, everybody. Which one are organizations concerned about? The form of compliance or the essence of compliance in itself? Which one worries organizations? Which ones are companies interested in? So these are key things that you need to go and think about for your own organization. Are we doing compliance the way it's meant to be done? Are we doing compliance to ensure competitive advantage? Are we worried about the form of compliance or the essence of compliance in our own organization? All right. So I definitely think organizations can do better. I think so. I think they can do better. I think organizations should adopt 37301. I think it doesn't matter if your organization has been, I mean, after all, it doesn't matter whether you've been doing AML reporting in your own organization. Go back and really think about it. Are we really doing AML reporting the way we're meant to be doing it? Go back and look at it that thoroughly. That if you invite A4S, invite Dr. Orlando and his team to come to look at the way we're doing we're meeting our AML in our own organization, are we going to pass? That is the question to ask. We've been doing AML for years. We've been reporting on AML for a very long time. But are we going to pass if we invite Dr. Orlando and his team to come to review us independently? Who reviews apart from the regulator? Who else as the organization ensured will review compliance, whether you're meeting all the requirements? There's so many requirements. Once again, compliance is for all of us. It's not only for people in financial services. Everybody should be worried about compliance. Ibrahim, thank you very much. Ibrahim says it can be building trust with customers, regulators, reducing legal risk, right? But most people are only interested in the form of compliance, not the real essence, right? Richardson, once again, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Regulatory fines, thank you, Richardson. Manuel, yeah. The form of compliance versus the essence of compliance. People want to be in fact, I have a lot of clients. They want to be compliant with one thing or the other, right? So when people bring me all those dodgy audits, I just tell them you should go somewhere else. Is that can they get there? They have not, clients even invite me when they have not implemented the standard. Can you imagine? I have clients who say that come and audit us for the standard. I say, okay, you have failed before I start. How can you invite me to come to audit you? Now you should go and look for the kind of auditor that typically will just pass you and tell you that you can go. Right? But me, I will look at it because once again, it's not even about me. These audit reports are going to international organizations. So it's not really about me. Okay. Hey, once again, thank you very much, everyone. It's our pleasure to be here. Mr. John, thank you. I've seen what you sent. Mr. Joseph Abidemi Karim, thank you very much. Korede Akinola, thank you very much. Richard Na, I've seen all your comments. Dandy, I've seen your comments. Emmanuel Richardson, Taiwo Gabriel, Ibrahim Evangel. Evangel, it's great to have you here. Samuel, and Mark Conjola, and everybody that has contributed. Thank you very much for your thoughts and your comments. I would not have been able to have this class all by myself if nobody is saying anything to me. So thank you very much. You can join the Training Heights community. We have a lot of training classes, so we're going to be doing this compliance. We're going to be doing compliance training in a couple of months down the line. I'm sure I can look for in a minute. Just give me 1 minute. So everybody, share your thoughts with me. What's your big takeaway today as we bring this to a beautiful close? Everybody, what is your big takeaway today as we bring this to a beautiful close? What's your takeaway as a person? I need to hear from at least 20 people, if you don't mind. I need to hear from at least 20 people. What is your takeaway today? In this session today, what is your big takeaway, everybody? Quickly. What's your big takeaway from this session today? I need to hear from at least 20 people. What's your big takeaway from this session today? You can join me. I'm going to look for the link for what we are doing on fraud. I promise you the fraud event is going to be extremely interesting. So there is a fraud event that we're going to be having. You're going to learn a lot from that event. I'll put it in the chat room. Please tell me. Thank you very much, Abidemi. What's your big takeaway today? If you look in the chat room, you see something around the fraud event. It's happening this month. Fraud is the brother or the sister of compliance. Everybody, did you hear that? I consider fraud to be the brother or the sister of compliance. As you have compliance, you also have fraud. So I consider fraud to be the brother or the sister of compliance. So I think everybody, you should worry about fraud in your organization. You can't be talking about anti-money laundering. Anti-money laundering is the brother and the direct sister, right? They're directly related. Anti-money laundering is directly related to AML. There is no way you can get anti-money laundering right in your organization if you don't have any entity that focuses on fraud. You need an entity in your organization that focuses on fraud. So you can join us. You can join us in any of the other things that we're going to be doing. Can I still hear from some other people? What's your big takeaway? When you tell me your takeaway, it allows me to know what we can improve in future sessions. So if you tell me your takeaway, it allows me to know what we can easily improve in future sessions. So please, if you don't mind, if you just tell me we're done, pretty much we're done. We will send the what's that thing to you? We will send the exam you're going to do. We will send it to you. If once we have your name in the attendance, we'll send the exam to you. We'll send the exam to you. Please follow Training Heights and follow A4S in various communities. You can check on LinkedIn and on all sorts of other places so that you can stay on top of a lot of these things that we're doing. A lot of people come to quarrel with me. They say, Orlando, you did not tell us on time. Well, so stay in touch with us on all our platforms. You will see all the things that we are doing. As I said, let me share this screen. Let me share my screen. We do a lot of free sessions. So on my screen, everybody, you can see that what we're doing, that should be next week Friday. Am I right? Yes, next week Friday. So we're doing something next week, Friday. We're doing something next week. We're doing something next week, Friday, all right, on fraud. So that's a big deal. And then, of course, to the right, you can see some training, a certain portion of our training calendar that has got things like this. So you can see in August, we're doing something on compliance. In August, we're doing something on compliance. You can see there. In September, we're doing something around corporate governance. In November, we're doing something on fraud. Everybody, you should note these things. So just stay in touch on any of our channels to know what it is that we're doing. The session next week, Friday, is free. It's going to be a brilliant session. I promise you. You will go extremely educated from that particular session next week, Friday. It's going to be 12 noon. We're going to be doing this next week, Friday. And then, of course, the various training classes. The training classes are one of a kind. I promise you. We always ensure that we don't do this lightly. So we classes on compliance, on corporate governance, on risk, on asset management, on ESG, on anti-bribery, all sorts, on fraud in itself, right? So these are all areas of our work. Once again, thank you very much, everyone. It's been my pleasure to have you here. If you don't mind, you can switch on your camera. You can take a picture with me. That will be brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. We can do this and we can bring this to a beautiful close. Please fill the attendance form. Give us your comments. Fill the feedback form also. Your comments so that we know how to improve these sessions in the future for everyone. Once again, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. It's been my pleasure hosting this session today. Thank you. All right. So please, if you don't mind, switch on your camera in the chat room. I'm sorry, in the on the call, and we can bring this to a beautiful close. Switch on your camera, and we can bring this to a beautiful close. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for your time. It's been my pleasure to have you all. Emmanuel, thank you very much. I wouldn't have known you were this handsome. Emmanuel, thank you. Right? Mr. Jackson, thank you. I know I called you into this at such a late
Thank you so
hour,
much too.
but thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to be here. I hope you can also get your compliance people. You can send it to them as it is. I also called Korede a bit late. So, Korede, thank you very much for agreeing to be here. Emmanuel from Ghana, Sam, and Wura Evangel. I know I called you late into this. It's great to have you here. Shrive, I know I called you, right? So, once
It's
again,
fine, sir.
thank you. Thank you very much,
Thank you, sir.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you and see you in future sessions that we're going to be having. Thank you. God bless you. Happy Easter to all of you. Happy Easter to all of you. And a
Same
big thank
to
you to the
you,
Training
sir.
Heights team, Mr. Muyiwa, and the entire team, Bodu, that have put this session together. A big thank you to all of you, Wura, that have driven this whole thing, Angela, Victoria, and even Ernest in Ghana, and Abigail that have driven this entire thing. Thank you very much. It's been great. Happy Easter to all of you, and hopefully see you at the fraud call. Mr. Ayodeji Morakio, thank you very much for your time. See, Dandy, thank you very much. Emmanuel, thank you. I did that for. Wow. All right. How you doing, sir? All right. It's great to have you here. Hopefully see you on the fraud call. I think I put the link to I mean, just follow us. You will see, follow A4S on one of the platforms, Benjamin. Follow A4S. You can save the screenshot. I'll put it in the chat room. If you, I think if I also look for A4S fraud webinar, A4S fraud webinar, it's going to be explosive. Um, uh, Yeah, our fraud webinar is going to be brilliant. So I think if you follow us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, just look for A4S. You will see the link. You'll see, and also if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm sure it will be on one of the posts in there. Next week is going to be brilliant. All right. Once again, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Shegun, Obolanle, and every other person that is here. Babatunde Olariwaju, thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very